Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, storytelling guide, mindset elevation coach, and publisher of Aspire magazine, Linda Joy, and I am so excited that you are circling up with me and an old friend of mine for this deep conversation about embracing your inner brave heart to grow through grief. My guest today is an old friend. I was thinking about it this morning. We go back 20 years when Aspire was first just a seed planted in my heart. She had written for Aspire. She's been a speaker at my past events and hopefully upcoming events. Joining me today is Sandy Alemian. Transformed by the loss of her infant daughter, Sandy is now a powerfully gifted spirit medium and blends wisdom and gentle humor as a voice for spirit and God. Her messages are healing, uplifting, and life altering. For the last 30 years, she has been helping women experience spiritual awakenings after loss. She is also a spiritual coach and the author of 3 books. Congratulations, It's an Angel, as well as What Was God Thinking? And her most recent book, The End, or Is It? You can learn more about Sandy at sandyalemian.com. Sandy, welcome. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you, Linda. It's so good to be with you again today. And yeah, I remember those early days when I would come to your home and we'd chat about possibilities and yeah,
Magic and miracles and I've loved watching your journey unfold. You know, you have helped heal so many just through your open heart, your gifts. So let's go back a little bit, Sandy, because although I know your story, they don't. So, what led to your own spiritual awakening?
I'm sorry, can you say that again? I missed the question.
What led to your own spiritual awakening?
Yeah. So I think it's important to understand what life was like before my spiritual transformation. Um so I grew up with a lot of insecurities. I didn't have a lot of confidence. Growing up, I didn't really like who I was. I wanted to be like my older sisters. I wanted to be more like them and less like me. Um, and but then you kind of just sort of adapt your way through life and you do the things that you're supposed to do. You go to college, you get married, you start having kids, and that was the path that I took. And I had a great career. I was a buyer for Child World. I had my first daughter, and then I had 2 miscarriages, and then my second daughter, Talia, ended up dying at a month old. She spent her whole life at Beth Israel Hospital. And the interesting part about that, Linda, is 5 years before Ari was born, I was receiving messages through my writing from the angelic realm. And I loved working with that realm. I didn't necessarily know who my angels were, but I knew that there was a powerful presence of angels, not just around me, but around all of us. And I was receiving messages from them in my writing. And not once was I warned, this is what you're going to go through. And I understand why we're not warned, because if someone had said to me, okay, Sandy, you're going to have Ariana, you'll have 2 miscarriages, Talia is going to die at a month old, and then a year later, you'll have your third child, I would have said, I'm not strong enough for that. Pick somebody else. And going through that whole time of Talia being in the hospital and after she passed, it was it was a breaking open moment. And I think that's what happens to us in life. Life breaks us open all the time, but it's really what we do with it. that matters. So when I was completely broken down, not knowing how I was even going to move through the grief, that's when I started sensing the presence that I call God. It was this enormous energy of love and light that was telling me things like, Sandy, death is not the end. You're going to help a lot of people through this. But at the time, I didn't know how I was even going to help myself through it. And then it was 2.5 weeks after Talia died, my lowest of low points. I did not want to be on the planet anymore. That was the day I received my very first message from her through my writing. And that was the game changer, Linda. It was from that moment. It didn't solve my grief. It eased the grief. It softened the edges of my grief. But I made a decision. I want to know everything there is to know about death. I want to know everything there is to know about the spirit world. And if you can open yourself up to communicate with them on a more regular basis, how the heck do you do that? And that became my journey. And it's been 30 years since. It's been quite a journey.
What a story, and I can hear so much of the pain, the hope, and I love what you said, breaking. If that was your breaking open moment. And for those who are listening, we all have those moments, right?
Oh my
And
God.
sometimes we just don't know how to get out of them. Well, I've known Sandy for 20 years. I watched the gift of what you do, Sandy, just really speak to so many women who are so trapped in their grief that they lost hope,
You
they've
know,
lost
yeah,
themselves.
Linda, that's you hit the nail on the head because we lose ourselves often. We lose a part of our identity. Oh, I just got goosebumps. We lose a part of our identity when we go through grief. The person that we were, feels like it's like we can't find that person. And grief affects our brain. Our brain is trying to look for the person because we're so used to connecting with them on a physical level. So when someone passes, even our brain is affected because our brain is trying to find a connection to them in the physical world and it can't. And so when we bring in the idea of spirit, the brain goes, oh, here they are. Okay. And then the nervous system starts to relax. But can we go back to the breaking open, those breaking
Yes,
moments?
yes.
I've had many of them in my life. And in the midst of those broken open moments, for me, I get scared because in those moments, I don't know how long I'm going to be in it. I don't know what things are going to look like on the other side of it. Like in those broken open moments, it's pretty dark. I went through it when I went through my divorce. I went through it when I went through a major, major financial loss. I went through it when Talia died. I went through it again when my mom passed. Like I've had four major breaking open times in my life, and each one um, helped me birth something different, but it takes time. It's really scary when you're in that darkness because nothing feels familiar. The person that you were is no longer the person you're becoming. You don't have no idea who you're going to become. You know what it's like, Linda? It's like when a caterpillar goes into a chrysalis and the process of the caterpillar becoming a butterfly, when it's in the chrysalis, it turns to goo, like complete liquid goo. And so the caterpillar is no longer, the butterfly is yet to be, and it's just this goo. And that's what it feels like when we go through you can call it the dark night of the soul or your breaking open moments. You feel like goo because it's like, oh, I don't even know who I am. And the thing that I want listeners to know is inside that goo, this is making me emotional. Inside that goo is already the DNA of the butterfly. So think about that for a moment. The DNA of the butterfly is inside that goo. So it's almost like there's this organic rebuilding, this organic unfolding that is happening. And the same thing is true for the how a butterfly is being created from the goo, from that DNA. The same thing is happening for us, but we just can't see it. The DNA of that new rebuilt, that new stronger, that new wiser human, that more resilient, that braver, more courageous, that part of you that wants to emerge with a voice. The DNA is already in the goo that you're in. And we just have to sort of be present with the process, not judge ourselves, not shame ourselves through it. If we can learn how to be in that gooey place and be with the emotions, at some point, the DNA that's already within us for that next greatest iteration of who we're becoming will become.
Mhm. Such a visual person, and that story, as you just described it, just really touched my soul as a deeper way of understanding this journey.
Mm.
I also call it the space in between, right?
Mm.
Between what is and what will be, and sometimes we can't even see our way out. But I loved that visual expression of how you shared it. So thank you so much, Sandy. And I think too is in that goo um, is where we do our deepest healing. Like we need to be there in that moment in time. It's almost like a safe place, even though we can't see our way out. It's almost comforting that it exists because it makes us feel held in that space in between.
Right, right. Sometimes I refer to that space as the womb of the unknown.
Ooh, that's beautiful. That resonates with me. Room of the unknown. It's because something new is being birthed through
Yeah,
your
yeah,
grief, right? Through your transformation. And I love um, that wording of the womb of the unknown because that's what it's like. It's the birthing of the next essence of who we are.
yeah. And here's what I want people to hear as well. There's no timeline on that process. Like you can't, and I know this by example because I lived this. Like you can't rush a butterfly out of the cocoon. I tried one time, Linda, when my kids were little. I bought them a butterfly kit. This is after Talia had passed, and I thought, oh, this will be really cute. We'll watch the caterpillar turn into a butterfly, and the caterpillar spun itself into the cocoon. And then what I noticed, I noticed the butterfly. It looked like it was struggling to come out of the chrysalis, right, the cocoon. And so I did what you're really not supposed to do. I took I took a pair of scissors. I was just trying to help. I took a pair of scissors and I snipped open the cocoon. I just thought, this poor thing is struggling. Let me help it. Well, the poor little butterfly came out with one of its wings hunched in and bent. And when it was fully out, we put it outside. The thing couldn't fly. What I didn't know that I know now is that the butterfly struggles against the chrysalis, and each bit of its struggle is there for a reason, because blood is flowing to its wings to make it strong enough so that it can fly. But in my fix it nature, because this is what I've done with people, it's what I right, I'm a fixaholic. um I want to help, I want to fix it, I want to help, I want to fix it. And sometimes someone is not ready to come out of their chrysalis yet, and that's okay. Like so if someone is listening and they're like, "Oh, I'm still in the goo," embrace it. As hard as it might feel, learn how to be with the emotions, because at some point something different will start to shift.
Mm. Think we can all relate to that story, Sandy, about wanting to fix things and help that comes from our soul. So, what a beautiful way to close out that segment with that story and visual. We're going to take our first break, my friends, and I want to invite you check out all of Sandy's offerings, her books, upcoming events at sandyalemian.com. We'll be back in a moment.
The time is now to deepen your intuition, connect with the archangels, your guides, and own your sacredness so you can live the empowered, inspired life you desire. Intuitive spiritual teacher, healer, and holistic life coach Robin Fitzsimons consciously blends her treasure trove of healing modalities, including Akashic Records, Sui Reiki, and silent counseling, along with working with the angelics to support the divine wellness of her clients' body, mind, and spirit. Through her popular online classes and sacred readings, including shadow work, awakening your intuition, channeled angelic guidance, past life healing, soul recovery, and more, Robin brings women deeper into the truth of who they are in a safe and sacred container. She is the founder of Wellness with Robin in Platteville, Wisconsin, where she offers in-person sessions and classes. Learn more at wellnesswithrobin.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations with my friend Sandy Alemian, spirit medium and author of numerous books, and a woman on a mission to help women embrace their inner brave heart so they can grow through their grief. So, Sandy, that was such a beautiful visual and a beautiful story about, the merging, right? Coming out of the goo into what you call, while we're in it, the womb of the unknown. That phrase really speaks to my heart. So, as your own journey after the loss of your daughter, what what was your unfolding like? Did you start taking classes? Like, I know messages were coming through her, through your writing. How did you learn to trust yourself to continue the journey?
Hmm. So I started sitting in Spirit Circle with Nancy Garber, who was, God, this is again 30 years ago. She was known as Boston's best medium.
I
Um,
do remember her, yes.
I sat in Spirit Circle with her for about 6 months. And then I went to the Arthur Findlay College in England and did an intensive training in mediumship. And it was wild, Linda, because I honestly didn't know what I was doing. I knew I was getting stuff. They when you go to Arthur Findlay College, there's, all the students are there. And the head instructor, Brenda, and the two other instructors look out over into the audience, and I guess they're reading people's auras and deciding which class to put them in, beginner, intermediate, or advanced. They put me in the advanced class, which was so intimidating for me because there were other mediums there who had been practicing for 10, 20 years. And here I am, a complete newbie, not knowing how I'm getting stuff. So, day two or day three, I went up to Brenda, the head instructor, and I said, Brenda, I think you have me in the wrong class. I don't know what I'm doing. And she said very sternly, Sandy, people would give their eye teeth for what you see. Just stop questioning it and start doing it. I'm like, okay. So I, when I came back from England, I honestly was afraid of what people would think, Linda, when I came back. And I didn't want to tell many people that I was doing this because back then I was also a professional speaker. I was teaching Dale Carnegie. I had a very good reputation, and this stuff was not mainstream back then. And I was afraid of what people would think. And so I kept it pretty quiet, and a word got out, and people started calling, and word spread. And every once in a while, I would get an email from someone that I didn't know, and it would say, do you know you're doing the devil's work? And they would quote some scripture. And I'd be like, ah! And I would say to God, if you don't want me doing this work, God, block it. If you want me to do this work, please bless it. And so it has been blessed. When you start working with spirit, it's different because it's not a tangible thing. There's a lot of trust that goes into it. It's For me as a medium, I hear and I sense. Those are my strongest clear audience and clairsentience. Those are the ways that I receive mostly. Then I will also see images, but I don't see spirit with my eyes open. I very rarely will see them with my eyes closed. So think about trying to trust something that you're just hearing, but it's not an audible voice that you're hearing. I hear thoughts. So think about all the thoughts that we hear during the day, right? Some of them are silly thoughts, some of them are crazy thoughts, some of them are fear-based thoughts. This is different. This is coming from a different frequency that I've learned to trust. I've learned how it sounds. I've learned the tone. I've learned the compassion and the love that spirit brings through. Not once will they ever shame someone, make someone feel bad, put guilt on somebody. I've not had spirit be angry ever at anyone here on earth or disappointed. Those are the emotions that are not associated with spirit. Those are emotions that are associated with the human realm. So when I teach people how to tune in to their own loved ones in spirit or to do this for other people, a big part of it is learning how to trust, because when people first start learning it, they're like, Sandy, I think I'm just making this up. How do I know I'm not just making this up? How do I know it's not just what I want to hear? And my answer is that's what you have to learn to trust. And over time, you start to learn the difference between your own thoughts and spirit thoughts. For me, it's a different vibration, it's a different feeling. The way that I talk to myself is different than the way spirit talks to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you've learned to decipher the language, and you're inviting those who are listening to start deciphering it too, to learn to trust it, what comes through.
Hmm.
And I love how described that those things of guilt and judgment, etc., don't come from spirit. It's
No.
like comes from that lower part of ourselves, right? Some would call the ego.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Exactly. You know, spirit sees life and death very different than our human ego sees it. Our human ego has been programmed to see death as the end, to see it as something that separates you from your loved ones, and it does, but only physically. We are never ever our energy is never separate from the energy of our loved ones in spirit, never ever. We might not always feel it, we might not always sense it, mm, but I think it's important to make note of, well, where is my attention? Where what am I putting my attention on? A lot of people right now are putting their attention on the news, on politics, on social media, and that is not the vibration of spirit. It's just not. It's the vibration of a lot of ego right now.
Oh, I completely agree. What I love to tell my mindset clients is what you focus on is what you feed.
Yep.
And I encourage and choose personally, I am going to focus on the light so that I can be the light, so I can increase the light in the world. Why would I want to give my soul energy, my spiritual truth and energy to something that I don't wish to bring into the world? So I think that was beautifully said. So I want to talk about, I love the phrase and the work that you do in the world. And you talk a lot about inner brave heart. And when that came through in your poems and all that, I'm like, oh, I can see her doing this. This is so sacred, so beautiful. But for the sake of our audience, what does that phrase and
Mm,
meaning and intention have for you in the work that you do?
yeah. So it's my understanding, Linda, and my belief that we were all born as an aspect of God, not separate from God, but as an aspect, an energy, a piece of God here. And then when we grow, we, especially as kids, we witness things, we start creating stories, we start having emotions that we don't want people to see, and we start masking a lot. And we start putting up walls, we start performing, pleasing, pretending, we start protecting some of the hurt that we felt. And at the same time, that energy that we were created as, that's what I call the inner brave heart. Like that's the most purest energy inside of us, that God essence inside of us. It's always there, but we don't always live our life in alignment with that, because the ego starts kicking in, and the ego's concerned about, well, what are people going to think? I don't want people to know this about me. And so we sort of get out of alignment. Someone just the other day called me, I was like a spiritual chiropractor, which I thought was so sweet. So part of my work and my coaching work is helping people break through the paradigms and the programming, so that they can come back to that energy of that their own inner brave heart. It's like there's not somebody outside of us that's going to come and save us. That energy is inside of us. And this has been a lifelong journey for me, Linda. because I was one who was outer focused. So I was out of focused. I was outer focused, wanting to bring in love and validation from the outside world and bring that in so that that could boost me up. And it's taken me a long time to realize that's in me. That's what I was born as. That's what I was created as. But my programming was, no, but I should be more like them. Or what are they thinking of me? Right. So that was what I had to work through. And I truly believe that our soul energy is wanting to bring us back to that, is trying to guide us back to that inner brave heart. And so it will invoke a breaking open moment into our lives so that we can sort of cut through all the layers and the programs and question all of it. Because when you go through a breaking open time, you start, I hope I did, you start questioning everything. I started questioning everything about religion. I started questioning everything about God. I started questioning everything about what I believed about myself. Every time I went through this, I would say, like, okay, who am I really? Who and what am I really? And who do I want to be? Because it's when you're in a breaking open moment, it's you have an opportunity to go, ugh, okay, let me hit the core. Let me just sort of lay down on the floor, surrender, and that's where the rebuilding comes. So it's all tied in. The inner brave heart is tied into the breaking open, because I believe the breaking open is happening for us, not to us. And I believe it happens for us so that we can find those more mm, powerful, resilient, courageous, kind, loving, gifted, expressive, creative parts of us that were buried underneath all the layers that we put on.
Mm. Sandy, this speaks so much to my own personal journey of um, spending decades, sounds like you did too, looking outside myself for validation, success, abundance, happiness.
Yep.
And then I had my spiritual awakening in 91 and was shown that within each of us, a seed is planted the moment we come into existence and we have an inner light. And then life happens and stuff piles up on our inner light and the truth of who we are. And
Yep.
then when we're called forward, like the breaking open moments, our role in this human life is to excavate the muck that we picked up that covered up our light. And then we remember, oh, the truth of who I am is in here, not out there. And so you beautifully, with such beautiful words, shared what my personal experience was. So thank you so much for that, because that was so beautiful. I love that phrase, inner brave heart. We're going to take another break, and I want to invite everyone. Please visit Sandy at sandyalemian.com. She has lots of ways that you can connect with her, work with her, attend events, and more. We'll be back in a moment to continue this soul inspiring conversation, my friends.
There is magic within you and all around you. Sha Blackburn, internationally recognized psychic, shamanic healer, and teacher, known as the Loon Witch, has been empowering individuals to transform their lives using magical principles and her intuitive gifts since 1997. Sha is a high priestess in the Order of Blended Wisdom Coven, ordained minister, Reiki master teacher, certified neuro-linguistic practitioner, and QHHT practitioner, certified in shamanic healing from the Foundation of Shamanic Studies. For over 20 years, she's been a popular media guest, providing wisdom and live intuitive readings. Sha offers an empowering variety of in-person and virtual workshops on the topics of divination, healing, metaphysics, and more. Clients around the world turn to her for tarot and rune readings and to her intuitive wisdom for guidance and clarity. Ready to tap into your magic? Visit loonwitch.com.
Thanks for joining us. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and with me today is spirit medium, friend, and author Sandy Alemian. Sandy, the way you just described the inner brave heart and that truth that I think we're all starting, I hope we are anyway, to realize is that all we need is within us because, as you said, we are part of God, we are part of the divine. And I embody that so much now, and people wonder how I get so much done. And I'm like, I align. I align with the truth of who I am. When things get hard for me, I go, oh, let's see where I'm out of alignment energetically with my connection to source. Does that word alignment, like energetic alignment, speak to you too?
I love that. I love that. And something came to me when we were just on the break. Linda, for so much of my life, I only I didn't want to be human. When I started finding that spiritual part of me, I only wanted to be that spiritual part. I only wanted to come through as an angel for other people. And yet here I was still in my humanness. And one thing that I've realized is, because I want to be careful when I say it's the truth of who I am, all of my emotions, those are true too. Like the
Yes.
because when I was a kid, I pushed down anger so far down because there was really no space for it. It wasn't really known what to do with. I never saw my mom get angry. Yeah, she would get irritated. Never saw my dad angry. So I didn't know that anger was an emotion that was okay to do. So I pushed my anger down. I think I pushed my sadness down. I did not know what to do with my emotions. And so they came out sideways. They did. They came out sideways for a good part of my life. And now that I'm a little bit older, I can look and say, wow, that angry energy, yeah, awesome. That sadness, awesome. That that fear, awesome. I embrace all of it now. The difference is I don't get stuck in it. I think
Yeah,
emotion
that's it.
yeah, I think emotions to me are energy that wants to have motion, energy in motion, emotion. And but that was another big learning experience for me, like, "Oh, no, I'm just gonna be a spiritual person, kind, loving," and I would ignore and push down a anything that did not feel okay, and that I don't feel like that's a healthy way for me to live anyway. So now I embrace it. I love now that I know what to do when I feel angry, because anger comes up and it says, "Oh, I feel threatened right now. Something feels off." And so now I look at it and I look to where, maybe to what part of me is feeling scared or hurt, and so it's I can use anger and I can use sadness and I can use fear. I use all of my emotions now, and they point me back to they point me back to feeling back into alignment, right? Because if I'm ignoring anger, even just say in my marriage, if I'm ignoring being upset or angry about something, oh, I can guarantee you it will come out sideways somehow. It will come out as a snarky comment. It will come out as a no, I'm fine, or instead
Yeah,
of just
we all know that one, huh? I'm
yeah,
fine. Well, I'm
instead
good. I'm good.
real clear and saying, "You know what? That hurt my feelings." And now I have the language to do it. I didn't have the languaging to do it before. I didn't know how to do it because it wasn't modeled.
I got to tell you, our personal life journey really mirrors a lot. I was the same way. We didn't have healthy ways to express emotions growing up, so
Yeah.
I was a stuffer too.
Yeah.
And then what I realized, like you, is it's okay to be angry. It's okay to have every single emotion that you just shared. The difference for me personally is in my unhealed parts of myself, when I'm not aligned with my truth, I use those emotions and react, which causes harm to others.
100%.
And when you're in alignment in processing those same emotions, you transmute the emotions, you process them within yourself, and you respond from the higher part of yourself,
Yep.
not use the emotion as a reason to hurt someone. That one little shift in my inner awareness, when I don't know, I'm going to be 63, so I'm probably at the end of my 30s, was like, oh, I can feel all that. Those are mine, that I have a right to feel all that, but I don't have a right to react and project it onto someone else that causes harm, which is out of alignment. Have you found that too, like navigating them from a healthier place? Because we weren't mirrored that as children, either one of us.
Yeah, I've definitely my emotional maturity has definitely come so far in my life. When I get upset, Linda, I will typically be like, okay, what am I feeling? What am I feeling? My first um, ego reaction is I want to tell that person to stop doing what they're doing because it doesn't feel good, right? Like you stop,
Mhm.
you stop, you stop. And now it's like, okay, what am I feeling? Oh, I'm feeling hurt. Okay, what am I feeling hurt about? And what age am I?
Yeah,
Sometimes
that's a big one.
yeah, sometimes that doesn't happen right away in the moment because sometimes I'm just in the energy of what I'm feeling. But with Kenny and I, we've both come to this place now where I'm able to say, "Hmm, that hurt my feelings," and my story is it. I feel like you don't care, and he's like, "Oh my God, Sandy, that's the furthest thing." I'm like, "I know, but that's what it feels like." And right now, I feel like I'm about 5 years old, and so I own that, and it's like, okay,
I
let
love that. I love that you 2 can, because I love seeing the pictures of you and Kenny and the music and all of that, such joy. I love the depth of that conversation that you just shared. You
yeah,
owned it, you mirrored, he
yeah.
responded with love, and, that's a tool I wish every child could learn, don't you?
Yeah, and then it's my job, Linda, and I think it's all of our jobs to be with the parts of us that are hurting. That's my work. It's not Kenny's work. It's my work. It's also my work to share, hey, when you do this, this is what it feels like for me. That this is what it feels like for me. And then he can decide to make a different choice if he can. But it's my work to be with my inner child and say, okay, no, you're safe. It's okay. I'm here. I'm here. It's all right. I love you. It's going to be okay. And so and it happens pretty quickly. The thing with fear, like, I want to talk about fear for a minute, because to me, fear is at the root of a lot of what's happening in our hearts right now. I, mm, so I've been having conversations with God for about 30 years, the energy that I call God. And when I go through um, some fearful moments, as soon as I bring out my journal is my portal to God. My journal is my portal to spirit. I can unpack my fear with God so quickly. And typically it's by saying, God, can you help me see this differently? Is there anything I should be afraid of about this? And Linda, not once ever, ever, ever in 30 years has God ever said, oh, Sandy, you should be so afraid of that. Not once. And when I remember, okay, this is why you shouldn't be afraid. Sometimes it's part of the soul plan. Sometimes it's, Sandy, it's out of your control. Just surrender and trust. Like, trust that something else will come in. Or, if you're in a moment of lack, just remember there's abundance all around you. When I work it through with God, I get back into alignment of a truth that feels so much better and more peaceful. It's when I rely on the the words from my ego, or the the unhealed part of me. The unhealed part, or the ego, can go back into past history and say, Sandy, here's 25 reasons why you should be afraid right now. Remember this thing? Remember that thing that happened? Oh, remember what happened to that person over there? Remember this? Remember that?
Yeah.
Right? That's what the ego tends to do. And you go, wait, 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 wait. Why am I listening to this ego? Let me go to source. Let me go straight to source, because you will always receive truth from source. And I teach my clients, here's what truth feels like, and here's what a lie feels like. Here's how you can tell the difference. Truth is going to feel like you can take a deep breath and everything starts expanding in your heart. That's what truth feels like.
Yeah, it's like, love and fear, right? The
Mhm.
And living from those emotions. That was so beautiful, Sandy. We're gonna take our next break, and we come back. I'd love if you have a process or anything you'd like to share with our listeners to help them connect with their own inner Braveheart.
Sure.
Wonderful. So we'll be back in a moment, my friends. Please visit Sandy at sandyalemian.com. You'll find that in the show notes and everything down below. And we'll be right back.
Your truest, deepest desires are calling you. The question is, will you answer the call? Former high tech Fortune 500 leader Sharon Seberg knows how it feels to wear busyness as a badge of honor and to smother her dreams with the expectations of others. Walking away from her successful yet unfulfilling career, she chose to live a life connected to her intuitive wisdom and divine truth, and now lives a life of fulfillment, peace, and abundance. Today, Sharon is a neurotransformational coach, feminine power facilitator, and the visionary founder of the Soul Alignment Formula. She empathetically fuses cutting-edge neuroscience with intuitive coaching, supporting successful women to unlock their full potential so they can live a life of authenticity and freedom. Are you ready to excavate your deepest desires and bring them to life? Start by visiting SharonSeberg.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. This is your host, Linda Joy, and with me is spirit medium and author Sandy Alemian. So, Sandy, I'd love if you feel led to guide the listeners on a brief journey, whatever you feel called to do, to help them connect with their own inner brave heart.
Sure. So let's start by um, releasing attention from the outside world, because that's going to be step number one, right? We're often so plugged in out there. So take a breath. You can allow your eyes to close. Withdraw your attention from out there and bring it in here. You can put your hand on your heart. Take some breaths. And when you are remembering that there is something within you, there's a power and a presence inside of you that you were born as, this light, this energy, this brave heart energy. It's always been there, just like the DNA was already in the goo. The DNA of the butterfly was in the goo. The DNA of this brave heart is already inside of you. And just like a sculptor slowly removes the clay that doesn't belong to his or her sculpture, allow anything that is no longer serving you to sort of melt away. In this moment, you might imagine stress and tension melting away so that you can allow the coming together and the remembering of this inner brave heart to start to emerge. You might be able to hear its whispers. You might feel your inner brave heart's energy. Your inner brave heart is the wisest version of you. Your inner brave heart is the most compassionate version of you. Your inner brave heart is the God essence in you. What does it want you to know right now? What does it want you to remember in this moment? Just listen. You might get a word, you might get a phrase. Just listen and pay attention to the thoughts that pop in. It will be loving, it will be compassionate, it will be filled with hope. What does that inner brave heart want you to know today? And I want you to know that this energy, this inner brave heart is always there 24/7, always there for you. And sometimes we just have to turn inward in order to feel it and remember it. It's like having your very, very best friend always there for you. A loving guide, your North Star, your inner brave heart is connected to your intuition. So take some moments and cultivate this quiet and this stillness so that you can sense its presence and sense its wisdom. Good. Just take another deep breath in. You can bring your awareness back. You can open your eyes. You can also do this in a journal. You can just sit with your journal and just ask to my inner brave heart, what would you like me to know today? And you can get quiet and just listen and just write down the thoughts that you hear. So I'm wondering, Linda, what does your inner brave heart want you to know today?
Dropped in so clear, trust in your bold vision.
Nice.
It's so funny because I'm about to make a big announcement at the end of the day. So when that came, it just dropped in, and I do trust. But that was such a beautiful journey. Um, because I immediately felt my energy come from the mind, because life is busy. Here we are on a show. And as you guided me and us through it, I felt everything shift right down into my heart. Like I felt my whole energy settle in. It was beautiful. So thank you, my friend.
You know what else I encourage my clients to do is to take out their cell phone
Hmm.
and hit record and record that message in your cell phone so that because when you're when you're in that space like you were just in, Linda, and you're
Hmm.
feeling the shift of energy, when you speak that when you speak it, it will come through with that vibration. When you record it, right? You can record it on your cell phone. It will record the vibration of your inner brave heart so that when you listen to it again, it will it will it's sort of like a tuning fork, right?
No, it comes right
It
back, right into that energy.
yeah, it will help to align realign you anytime you listen to that message.
What a beautiful tip, my friend. And ladies, I highly recommend that you do so. So we have just about 3 minutes left, Sandy. Are there any tools that you suggest, aside from that beautiful inner brave heart meditation you just guided us through, that you would suggest for anyone going through a,
Mm,
a transitional season right now?
yeah. Um, I mean, journaling and meditation are two strong ones for me, getting out in nature and walking. But one of my guides, Linda, about 15 years ago, her name was Gabrielle. She said to me, if you want to have peace, do these three things: stop forcing, stop resisting, and speak the truth. And so
Mm.
I love those. And I think as women, it, you know what? I can't speak for all women. I'll just speak for myself. For me as a woman, it was not always easy to share how I was feeling because I didn't always know how to connect what was going on inside of me with my words. I didn't know how to do it. I was too afraid of what people would think. And so learning how to speak the truth is so freeing. And speaking the truth is about you. It's not about anybody else. It's your truth, and the truth will set you free.
Mm. The two, when you first said stop forcing, stop resisting, from my wounds. I spent the first probably 3.5 decades pushing, chasing, resisting, trying to make things happen. And then when I went on the spiritual path, I learned to listen, trust, allow, and flow. And I wish that for every woman,
Yeah.
right? And the
Yeah.
speaking the truth, I think it can be a struggle for women because many of us grew up, depending what generation of, um, don't share your thoughts, don't share your emotions. So then we became stifled. So that is beautiful. What beautiful sacred wisdom from
Mm.
yourself and your guide. And
Thank
is
you.
there anything else you would like women to know as we come to a close, Sandy?
Mm, kindness. Just be
Ooh,
kind. Be kind to yourself. Find kindness and compassion for other people. Kindness. It's a beautiful language. It's a beautiful religion.
I'll tell you, because we can all think of a moment in our life where one moment of kindness, even from a stranger, just
Mm.
shifted the energy of the day or maybe even got us through. And I think it's just something that a lot of us have forgotten because we're so, in the energy of fear
Mhm.
instead of love. And so that's a beautiful message. Be kind to each other, my friends. And Sandy, I want to say thank you. It's always wonderful connecting with you, but I really loved this conversation. Everything that you shared, I know is going to support my audience. We're celebrating 9 years of doing this show, and thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Linda. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Until next time, my friends, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness. Blessings, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.